Hello, thank you for being here. We are Frame Machine. Today we're going to talk about a story-driven third-person action role-playing game being developed called Shelter Force, which we are adapting from our original graphic novel. We're going to using this project as example to talk about interior concept design and how concept artists can use 3D and 2D technique to solving visual problem in the pre-production phase. I'm very excited. Let's get started. Coming from the very beginning, usually we have some kind of creative and art direction giving us some kind of background setting. In this case, we got the Black Ops Tech Research Facility. When we have this kind of setting and the direction, we need to think about what is our subject matter. In this case, I think for this research facility, we're going to have a bunch of different corridors to connect with rooms. We got corridor for people to walk around into the space epic gameplay going to happen. Coming from our background story and the background setting, the creative and art director would start to summarize some of the keywords for artists kickstart some design. We got 3 keywords. In this case, we got rocky-based interiors, we got tech, we got brutalist. And as you can see, these 3 keywords, they are related to each other. The rocky-based interior is related to our background setting. And also, we are tech research facility, need some kind of techie/sci-fi style. And this facility is study some kind of special element coming from rocks. And brutalism is also a form driven by function, the visual style. So those 3 words are actually a very good guideline to helping us to kickstart. Next thing I think we can dive into our subject matter, which is the corridor, and our level artist and the level designer creating this nice layout of our level look like. It giving us a nice idea of how this environment corridor look like. We got a point A walking into point B, and also this nice traffic flow is a gesture of the environment. And we're going to talk about this idea later, but level design is actually really awesome because it's providing us so many information such as scale and the proportion. When concept artists get the level design, one of very important thing is to be aware of scale related to the human. The utility of the interior space, utility of the corridor is placed for people to walk around, such as you can feel like, okay, this is a door for people to walk into it. Here is another example, which when the door is too small, well, this just didn't look like a door, right? Another thing is this panel looks like need to be, can have some kind of interactive, some kind of gameplay to happen. Talk about the scale. Here is another example, which is this box looks kind of like a table, right? I think it's because how high the box looks like seems to be you can put things on it. And next to it is actually another box. It looks like a wall, right? That's seen from distance, we can have a better idea of 2 exactly identical boxes. The difference of the size. This 2 box looks like a very different subject matter. Here is the thing we need to pay attention, which is the scale related to the human. A very important key factor to going to whether we're going to building a believable environment or not. Another thing is proportion. Proportion is something, it's hard to say there's a right answer. The thickness of the framework of the door is very difficult to say what's the right proportion. Here is another sample which I am increasing the thickness. The feeling is very different coming from this to this. 2 things. One's the scale related to the human. Another is the proportion. Talk about proportion. Really, this is the factor concept artists can play with. Now we have our art and level design, and we got those keywords from creative and art direction. What I want to do is to visualize and start to design and play with the single component. So our subject matter is corridor, and so I think basis component of corridor is just single wall. So let's look into wall design by the level artist and the level designer. So first thing I wanted to do is to visualize some of the keywords such as rocky-based interior, and I designed just very self-explaining is a rocky wall. And second thing is to design a tech-feeling sci-fi wall. As you can see, I have this slightly chamfer bevel shape. in my opinion, like usually we have this kind of relationship between ceiling and the wall and the floor. We got this 90-degree angle, right? So we can feel like there's a lot of pressure coming from above. This angle will capture too much pressure and not very stable. If we can creating this chamfer shape, it's sort of giving a visual storytelling. We can feel the ceiling is transfer the pressure from the above through this chamfer and bevel shape, transfer from the wall and transfer into the ground plane. This is a much interesting form follow function driven visual storytelling element. Now we are visualize the keywords such as rocky base interior and the tag, those two keywords. We got the sort of telling texture of our creative and art direction, which is a rocky sci-fi wall. But let's look back into the level design. We try to design a corridor, right? So what we're missing right now is corridor. The utility of the corridor is guiding people from point A to the point B. Now we need to introducing this idea of gesture into our tiling design. This is next what I'm doing is try to creating sort of a single wall of the corridor. Now we can feel like, okay, now we got the start point, A and B. So we can feel like, okay, this is a place for people walk around. Now we had this single wall of the corridor, we can start to dressing. I am increasing the lighting and some small detail which is related to the proportion. I'm suggesting there's a lot of detail inside. This shape is related to the brutalism. A big shape all of a sudden pop out and also is suggesting there's a mechanism inside. Now we have a single wall of the corridor. What's next, right? We can mirror it. We got nice corridor. Because we are building the concept in the 3D program, it's very easy for us to prototyping, and before the actual production, we can start to feeling like, okay, what's this environment looks like. The camera that very much looks similar to the gameplay camera. We can walk around and check, is this environment looks believable, or is there any potential problem? This 3D file could be translate next phase of the production, could hand over to the environment artist and the 3D artist and the lighting artist through prototyping the environment very quickly. The benefit of 3D concept design is also we can play with the lighting, such as we can tweaking the lighting, for example, like reducing the lighting. Maybe we got a very spooky, like dramatic lighting, or we can play with like maybe there's some emergency situation happen, right? Because the 3D concept is very easy to prototyping, to experiment with different idea. For example, like previously I'm talking about, I'm visualize those components from the art and creative direction. I'm visualizing those keywords. So right now we can sort of really play proportion and use to tweaking those keywords into different direction. We can make this chamfer bevel shape make it larger, bigger. Now we got this kind of design, and let's duplicate it and mirror it. As you can see, all of a sudden now we have a very different look. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can preview the idea, what I mean. Let's see it in the lighting, and let's make the light more dramatic so we can see it in the design better. Immediately we got this asymmetry wall. We can play with this rocky wall. Mirror it, becoming like this. There's all kinds of freedom to play with. This is really the one of the benefit of doing 3D concept art. Next, I want to using another example, interior environment concept that we developed to talk about some of the other visual development technique that we're using during the process of developing this environment. We are develop 3D concept before into the real production. We got the lighting, we got the freedom of preview this environment before we moving into next step of the production. Of course, we got the benefit of 3D concept design, which is we can see the lighting, we can preview different proportion, we can moving around the components. Everything need to be looking good in the in-game lighting situation, because what if we turn off the light? It's going to basically we cannot see anything. Lighting is a key factor to helping the audience to understanding what's our environment are talking about, like where should go, where is the cool stuff to looking at. But how to set up the interior lighting is because it's not like exterior lighting. We got the sunlight, we got the ambient light from our atmosphere. Basically, we got the lighting from nature, and in the interior, every lighting is established, its design is created by human. They're giving us a lot of freedom, but at the same time giving us a problem to solve. Talk about this topic. One thing that I think we can definitely reference is nature, exterior lighting. Let's using this hero asset that we're creating for our environment to talk about what's going on for exterior lighting. For exterior lighting, usually we got a very diffuse ambient light. It's from the sunlight to cast into the atmosphere, so we got a very soft diffuse lighting above, from the top to the bottom, and giving everything a nice lighting, which is not very strong. We can overall get a feeling of, okay, light is from the above, we can see the shadow. Next thing is the sunlight. We got a directional lighting. Yeah, we can tweak the sunlight, rotate it, feel sun is moving along with the time. Maybe this is sunset, afternoon, and we can see the changing according to the time. This is actually giving us a nice idea of how interior lighting could be. The exterior lighting, I think, is giving me a nice inspiration of how to light up our environment, which is we can start from giving our environment a nice ambient light, which is a lighting from the above. Basically light up the whole room to make sure the audience, the player, can get overall feeling of what this room is about. So this lighting is kind of like helping us to establish the overall feeling of the environment, the interior environment. Then maybe we can adding a key light to emphasizing main character in this environment. So in this case, I was thinking about, okay, maybe our hero object is this console. I'm emphasizing the lighting. You can still play with the lighting. For example, maybe try another more spooky lighting, or something's going on, and we can try this dramatic red lighting. Process of develop a concept in 3D is really giving us a lot of freedom to play with lighting, composition, and more importantly, it's just creating an immersive experience, really to see what will happen if we tweak in lighting. The whole environment would look dramatically different. Along with the development process of creating this interior concept, we already got a very complicated environment. Step by step, we visualizing the art and creative direction. We separate those keywords and visualize those keywords, and we compositing. Then along with the level, we looking into proportion and the scale. We set up the lighting. At the same time, we already creating a much more complicated visual language. So I wanted to introducing another idea of designing a series of environment and level. I call this echoing. What echoing is mean, look into this environment and we analyze it and try to figure out if there's any shape or form language that we can use in on later development, or even becoming the main visual language that we're using on the other environment. So let's turn on the lighting, and I can start seeing the relationship of the how shape and form connect to each other in three-dimensional space. We got this vertical wall and how they connect with the horizontal ceiling and the horizontal floor. And I would say this is a nice visual language because we can see along with the repetition of this shape and form, we get idea of this is a very strong and solid interior environment containing inside the rock. We got a form follow function driven visual style. We got from a single cube, we develop into this bevel / chamfer shape, and play with the ratio, and we can get a lot of shape such as octagon, hexagon. So I think this is a very good visual language that we're going to using on all the environment development. So next, I'm going to talk about how to using this idea to develop this interior. Here is a few examples of how using visual language that we develop along with the process make it start to echoing inside this environment. If we turn on the lighting and maybe let's do a little pan over, we can see better this relationship of vertical line and the bevel line, and also this creating a nice feeling of this structure are supporting the ceiling. And of course, in this environment is a very tall, very high ceiling. A lot of elements inside this space are actually supporting this idea, so we can get a feeling of this is a very spacious environment with a high ceiling. Another example of using shape and form language is this form part of the environment, and we can see the hexagon shape on the wall. It's not just a decoration, it also echoing again and again and repeat again and again to make the form part of the area, which is those window, align with this hexagon shape, creating a very unique and cohesive look of the environment. If we start from this angle, I think we can see it better. We can see the hexagon shape in here and started to echoing, mirroring in here. The form part of the hexagon shape actually is not just influence the windows and the ceiling. Let's see from the outside. We can see this whole room actually is echoing of the hexagon shape. But of course, right now we are just designing the interior, but I still think this is a pretty interesting thing. Looking into the central element of this environment, which is this central console, is also designed according to the shape and form language of Hexagon. Let's look at this environment from the above, from the top view. Okay, let me turn off the ceiling. We can see it better now. We can see the almost entire environment is some kind of echoing of our shape and form language. For example, in the center we got the hexagon shape. Let me using the so here in the center we got the hexagon shape. Other parts we can see that this bevel and chamfer shape are echoing. They're in here. Let me switch a color. Okay, they are in here and they're echoing again. And they are, when the shape echoing tell the edge of the wall, it become like this. So it's not like they are following the single proportion. The angle of this echoing is changing according to the space. This echoing shape and form language is giving us a nice roadmap. It's actually following how this gameplay would look like, because player will start from this elevator and player will go here and see things and a monitor that had some kind of gameplay to happen. Then player will walk around and go out. This echoing design creating a nice pattern that can guide the player. The best thing is like we can actually experiment this process. We can experiment the gameplay from the first person perspective, because all the design align with space and the traffic flow and the shape and form language. Very smooth and cohesive feeling when we're walking around in this environment. And next is start to adding more contract into this environment. Especially right now, we have a very solid foundation. We got interesting design, we got overall layout. We can really just enjoy the process of crafting this very interesting environment design. By adding the contrast, one thing is contract of value, right? We adding the light, and we got a contract between light and shadow. Talk about adding contract on other aspect is actually the same things. For example, we can adding the contract of shape and form. So let's tweak the camera and finding the best camera to talk about this idea. And maybe turn on the lighting. Again, doing a screenshot, and I would do a pan over, maybe easy to talk about this idea. By adding the contract, for example, previously we got very hard, solid hexagon shape and the octagon shape. Those shapes they are hard edged and giving you very solid feelings. So adding more contrast between shape and form is kind of like adding diversity. For example, cable scattered around in the environment. Other thing you may notice, which is we got these craters, they are scattered around the central console. We got this table, this panel device, they are interactive with the human, so they are more soft, they are more roundish shape on it, so you get feeling like, yeah, this is like more friendly and using by the human. So this is an example of adding contrast in shape and form and adding diversity in the environment. Next thing we can do is adding the more material. Adding the material to giving the more diversity for the environment. As you can see right now, this interior space, this wall, is already got a very different variety of different kind of materials. We got a very reflective, almost like a metal, this kind of material. we got the emission, we got lighting, we got this matte black material, we got this rocky material. One of the benefits creating a 3D concept design is that we can very easily to play with the material. For example, maybe we want to tweaking this matte black into much brighter color, and maybe we want more specular, reduce the roughness. So all of a sudden we got this new pattern. Can decreasing the metallic, we can adding more roughness, and maybe let's just tweak the color too. So all of a sudden we switch was the black and white. We got a new pattern to look at, or maybe we can play with this rocky material. We can move in here, make it a bit larger to adjusting the size of this wall. So yes, right now I'm directly scaled down, so maybe that would be a bit of trouble because it may ruin the scale, you know. But right now I think this is not that much of difference between the scale. Not just play with the material, I'm also changing the proportion of the pattern on the wall, and I'm creating a new proportion by adjusting where the material should go, and the hexagon shape I can try to duplicate it, and maybe let's creating this kind of effect, and yeah, will be looking like this. I am sort of emphasizing this is something we can do to creating new pattern on the wall by adding diversity of materials. As you can see, this is very handy if we develop our concept in 3D. Got all the freedom to play with the components. We can play with the proportions, we can play with color, we can play with shape and form. And who knows, we may coming out something brand new. From the creative and art direction, then it's level design and level art is creating the level. We develop ideas in 3D, we visualize those keywords from our setting, our background story, and analyze what level artists tried to design. We think about proportion, we think about scale, we think about traffic flow. Then we're building our concept in 3D, and step by step, we're creating a lot of interesting things. So yes, this is our process of creating interior environment concept design. Hoping it makes sense to you and you enjoy this process, hoping get some inspiration. In the next year, we can talk about more with what we're doing for this project, Shelter Force. I can guarantee we got a lot more epic stuff to talk about. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and see you next time. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.